I welcome you to another Tuesday teaching. This is Languages, an academy of knowledge economy. My name is Josephine, your digital professor. Every Tuesday, I teach on a course in philosophy of religion, theology of religion. My Ph.D. is in philosophy of religion and theology. On Fridays, I speak or discuss important critical issues to our lives. So I welcome you to this Tuesday for another teaching. It's a continuation of free will, but today I'll be looking at the scientific view of free will. Before I continue, let's join Languages. I welcome you back again. Let me say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I don't know the exact time you are viewing this video. I want to thank you, all my subscribers and those who are viewing my videos, for having the time to hear me out. And I'd like you to please continue to share my video. And if you are new, just click the below line, the subscribe button, and on your notification button, so that anytime I release any new video, you'll be notified. My name, once again, is Josephine, and I am a digital professor. Today, I'm continuing with free will, but looking specifically the scientific view of free will. And if you are familiar with this, my channel, you know I love to present to you PowerPoint so that it's a bullet point so that you can see exactly what I'm teaching and understand, because it's an academy of in-depth economy for better knowledge, greater knowledge. So join me as I present my PowerPoint. Free will, the scientific view, the alternatives, that is the options, other options to determinism and non-determinism, freedom of free will. Here we shall focus on the notion of free will, the doctrine that was as conscious human beings are free to make genuinely undetermined choices in circumstances where we are genuinely able to do so, and where we so freely or relevantly, unconstrained, choose to do so. You will see that I'm stressing some points and some words here. I'm stressing genuinely. I'm stressing freely. I'm stressing genuinely. I'm also stressing unconstrainedly. So, what I'm saying is that when we talk about free will, the notion of free will, the doctrine is a doctrine that we, as conscious human beings, rational human beings, are free to make genuinely undetermined choices in circumstances where we are genuinely able to do so, and where we so freely, relevantly, unconstrainedly choose to do so. So, like determinism, free will comes in a variety of types and strengths. Here, I'm discussing the scientific view of free will and two common types of philosophical approaches to this notion. There is a general scientific picture of the world that lends itself to predictability and certainty of outcomes, and hence more to determinism than any notions of freedom or freedom. For those who are familiar with my videos, you know, I'm always going into the scientific realm and coming back into theology or religion. I'm very lucky. My first degree is in biochemistry, which is science oriented. So some of these terms or terminologies I use at times, I'm familiar with them. And I go into theology proper because my master's degree is in biblical studies, which is the total study of the scriptures, either the Old Testament, either the New Testament, either church history. But for my Ph.D., which actually I did my Ph.D. in a seminary and I did my Ph.D. in a university at different times, but is philosophy of religion and theology. And I want you to understand this. Philosophy of religion and theology swings because it comprehends and looks at both scientific view of certain things and non-scientific views of certain things, especially when we talk about religion or theology. So it flows very well. It's not strictly attached to dogma, if you understand what I'm talking about. So modern science, however, draws a picture that is quite different from deterministic picture. According to the 19th century science, the world was broadly as follows. Tiny particles of matter move about in virtually empty three-dimensional space. And the alternative to non-determinism, freedom, I have said that. It's just like, I'm sorry, it's like a repetition of what I just said. I'm going back. Instead of going forward, it looks as if I'm going back. So please, pardon me, okay? These particles, maybe I should go back a little bit to repeat the last statement so that we will not miss what I'm saying. I said when we look at the 19th century science, the world was broadly as follows. Tiny particles of matter move about in virtually empty three-dimensional space. And these particles, I'm really sorry this time around. I'm sorry, this PowerPoint is doing something else, but we will get over it, don't worry. These particles act on one another with forces uniquely determined by their positioning and velocities. In their turn, the forces of interaction uniquely determine, according to the Newton's laws, the subsequent movement of particles. Thus, each subsequent state of the world is determined in a unique way by its initial state. So determinism was an intrinsic feature of the scientific worldview of that time. There was no room for freedom in such a world. It was illusory. You know what we call illusion. Human beings, merely aggregates of particles, had as much freedom as wound-up wash mechanisms. But in the 20th century, the scientific worldview underwent a radical change. It has turned out that subatomic physics cannot, and please underline that, cannot be understood within the framework of the native realism of the preceding scientists. So the theory of relativity and quantum mechanics require that our worldview be based on a critical but scientific philosophy. Accordingly, all our theories and mental pictures of the world are only devices to organize and foresee our experience and not the images of the world as it really is. Thus, along with the 20th century specific discoveries in the physics of the micro world, we should consider the emergence of an appropriately critical philosophy as a scientific discovery and one of the most significant scientific discoveries of the 20th century. Space. We now know that the notion that the world is really space in which small particles move along definite trajectories is illusory. It is contradicted by experimental facts. We also know that determinism, that is the notion that in the last analysis, all the events in the world must have specific causes, is illusory too. And on the contrary, freedom, which was banned from the science of the 19th century as an illusion, became a part, if not the essence, of reality in the 20th century. The mechanistic worldview saw the laws of nature as something that uniquely prescribes how events should develop, and with indeterminacy resulting only from a lack of knowledge. Contemporary science regards the laws of nature as only restrictions imposed on a non-deterministic world. It is not an accident that the most general laws of nature are conservation laws, which do not prescribe how things must be, but only push certain restrictions or constraints upon them. So there is what we call genuine freedom in the world. And when we observe it from the outside, it takes the form of quantum mechanical unpredictability. Quantum mechanical unpredictability. When we observe it from within, we call it our free will. We know that our behavior is unpredictable from the outside because we have ultimate freedom of choice. And that's why sometimes when certain things happen, you might not be able to predict the action of the other person rightly. Sometimes you can, sometimes mostly you will not. Because you cannot be outside of that person who has the free will inside to make a choice, to determine how that person is going to react. So this freedom is the essence of our personalities, the treasure of our lives. Let me give you a funny example here for us to understand. Maybe on the street, as an experiment, let's say two students, they've done something wrong, and the person they did it to, or to, decide to slap them. That slap might resort to a slap back from one. Let me delete the word students there. They might not be students. Let's just say there are three adults who are discussing or in a very heated argument and debate. And one of them did not find it funny what the other two are talking or saying. And he thinks the only way he wants to react is freedom, is to slap them. One might instantly return that slap for the slap, even double slap. The other might decide to laugh at the slap. You wonder why is he laughing? The same thing happened to both two. But the freedom of choice inside them made them choose the way to react differently. So the freedom is the essence of our personalities, the treasure of our lives, and it is given to us as the first element of our world. So logically, the concept of free will is primary and impossible to derive or explain from anything else. And when we talk about logically, that is logic. Logic could be scientific, logic could be mathematical. So logically, the concept of free will is primary. When we use the word primary, we say it's main and impossible to derive or explain from anything else. So the concept of necessity, including the concept of natural law, is a derivative. We call necessary or predetermined things that cannot be changed at will or by will. And that is where genuine freedom comes into it. I'm going to stop here today on the free will scientific view, the mechanistic world view, the genuine freedom, as we say it. Next Tuesday, I'm going to continue on the two topics of free will and determinism. And maybe rightly, for the remaining Tuesdays of this month, October, that's what we'll be discussing. So I want to thank you for joining me today in this teaching. And I want to ask you once again to click that button, subscribe to my channel if you have not done so. And if you have done so and you have not turned on your notification, please turn it on so that anytime I release new video, you'll be notified. I want to thank you once again, all my subscribers. I want to thank my viewers too. My viewers who've done wonderfully well. Just continue to view my videos. And please send me feedback. You will always make comments on the description box below, or find something, things, my email and everything, how to reach me there. And if you want to know more personally, either in group or one-to-one, face-to-face, let me know. My cost is just a little, but you will never regret it. So have a lovely week.